Welcome to lesson 68 of course 2. In this lesson we're going to simplify expressions and we're going to use algebraic addition in order to do it. So what I mean by that is that we're going to be adding positive and negative numbers together. There is no new vocabulary, so we don't need to address any of that. So let's get started. So if you remember from doing number lines that -3 and 3 are the same distance from 0, so we can call them opposites of each other. We do this, that's the same reason why we have absolute values. Right, the absolute value of -3 is 3 because they're both 3 from 0. There's a couple of ways we can look at that. We can look at, right here's what I wanted to draw your attention to is right here, is that we can read -3 as the opposite of 3, or the minus -3. So when we have two signs together, just like in multiplication where two negatives make a positive, it's the same thing when we add them together. So when you see this together, you'll know that a -3 really is a +3. I know that sounds confusing. It takes some practice, but you'll see it. Hopefully after this lesson, it'll be much clearer to you. So let's look at a couple examples. If we have 7 minus 3, we all know that's 4, because we can just subtract 3 from 7 and get the answer of 4. Well, when we use an algebraic addition, what we do is that we look at the -3 as being -3, and then we have that. So we got 7 plus a -3. Well, we know that when we have a positive and we multiply a positive sign with a negative sign, we get a positive answer. So really, you end up with 7 minus 3, a +3, which is 4. Had it been 7 minus a -3, that would have changed our answer because two negatives change it. So you'll see it both ways. Mostly you're going to see it this way from now on, where it'll be 7 plus a -3. And where you've got to look at that, you got to look at the 7. You're at 7 on the number line, and then you've got to go back 3 or -3 to get to 4, because it's plus a -3. Plus subtracting 3 is what that's saying. So let's look at this. So 7 minus a -3, they do it just like this here, right? So when you minus a -3, that's really a +3. And so that would change, makes a total of 10, because two negatives make it a positive. So it turns that 7 minus a -3 to really 7 plus 3, which we know to be 10. So I like to, when I see these, I like to draw these lines in here and split them up. That's the same way as putting this plus sign in the middle there. You can do it the way you like it best. When I do it, I'm going to show you with the slashes. So let's take a look at one. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here and I'm going to put in my slash mark. So now I know that two negatives make a positive. So that's really a +2. So what I have here is I've got a -3 plus 2, which I know equals -1. Or you could do it their way, where they put the plus sign in there. I put the slash in there. I prefer that. It's easier for me to see. You can do it however you want. Okay. What you can't do is you just can't. You got to find them two signs side by side being multiplied, and that's what's happening here. Is that these are being multiplied, and two negatives make a positive. So let's look at this one here. Okay. So first thing we see is that we've got two negatives out front here. We've got two signs next to each other. I can ignore that -5 because there's not two signs, but here's two signs together again, right here. So I solve this first one, a negative and a negative is a positive, so this is a +2. I'm going to leave that -5 as -5 because there's not two signs there, there's just one. Now I got a negative and a positive, which is anytime you have a negative and a positive, the answer is going to be negative. So this is going to be -6. So now I can combine these two together, and they equal -11, and I can add them to my 2, so my answer is going to be -9. Do you see that? Does that make sense? If not, you can look at it down here and put all the plus signs in there. Instead of this is where I had my slashes, right? They put in plus signs. So either way, it works the same way. negative 5 plus a negative 6 is the negative 11 that I put up there, and then plus the 2. Okay, let's see if you can do this one. Pause it, and then I'll go ahead and show you the answer. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look for two signs next to each other. I see it right here. I see a negative and that positive. So I can come over here and isolate that and turn this into a negative 1.5 and not have to worry about anything else. So I've got negative 1.2 plus a negative 1.5. So I add those together, I get 7, I get 2, it's negative 2.7. Okay, let's look at another one. See if you can do this one yourself, please. Please work through this and do it. Make sure you know how to do this skill because it's a very important one. Pause the video and do it. Okay, let's look at this. I'm looking for two signs side by side going from left to right. There's not 2 here, so my negative 3 is okay. But here I've got 2 together, a negative and a positive. And here I got 2 together, a negative and a negative. So I'm going to solve for these two first. And I know that a negative and a positive equal a negative. So this is negative 2. And I know that a negative and a negative, when multiplied together, is positive. So this is going to be plus 4. So I can just bring down my negative 3 minus 2 plus 4. Well, if I combine these two together, that's negative 5 plus 4, which equals negative 1. Is that the answer you got? I hope so. Practice these. They can be very confusing, but once you get it straight in your head, they're extremely easy. There's your practice problems. Do 9A and B, 14A, B, and C, and 15. Thank you for watching the video. Write down any questions you have. We'll go over them tomorrow in class as we do our homework together. Thank you, and we'll see you at lesson 69.